آله وأصحابه أجمعين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد, a brief narration that I'd like to share with everyone this evening. It's a narration that is less known, but nonetheless very powerful. And this narration articulates to us that, in general, every one of us is a type of person. When we take all of our mistakes and all of our good deeds and everything about us and we boil it down, when someone sees you, when you make an appearance, you give off an impression. And when you see someone, the first thing that comes to mind essentially is that person's image boiled down, what they're about. And so the Prophet ﷺ tells us about the best of us and the worst of us. This narration was collected by Al-Hafidh al-Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, in his book Al-Adab al-Mufrad. It's on the authority of Fatima bint Qais, radiyallahu anha. She narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said to the companions one day, أَفَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ بِخِيَارِكُمْ? Should I not tell you who the best amongst you are? Yarhamukallah. Should I not tell you about who the best amongst you are? The best of you. Who are they? They said, بَلَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Of course. He said, الَّذِينَ إِذَا رُؤُوا ذُكِرَ اللَّهِ. Those whom when they are seen, Allah is remembered. Imagine that for a second. That, for instance, if you see someone who, you know someone who deals in cars, he's a car salesman, and everything about him is car salesman. When you see him, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Or a person who is a lawyer, or a person who is... The best amongst us are those who are such an example of the Prophet's Sunnah. They are a person that when you sit with them, they remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you see them, the first thing that comes to mind is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the best amongst us. Those who were able to deliver the light, carry the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and get themselves out of the way. So the best amongst us are those whom when they are seen, Allah is remembered. The Prophet ﷺ tells us in another narration collected by Al-Hafidh al-Imam al-Bukhari, he says, مَثَلُ الْجَلِيسُ الصَّالِحِ وَالْجَلِيسُ السُّوءِ كَمَثَلِ حَامِلِ الْمِسْكِ وَنَافِخِ الْكِيرِ. He says the example, the analogy of good company and bad company is like a person who sells musk or sells perfume and a person who is a blacksmith. The perfume salesman and the blacksmith. That's the example. He says that the perfume salesman, you will either purchase from him or he will rub off on you and you'll have a good smell, or at least you will smell something pleasant from him. These are three levels. You'll either become a person who carries that scent, that perfume, or it will rub off on you. So when you come out of that person's company, we know where you've been, right? Or at least you will have had a pleasant experience. However, the blacksmith, and it's not really just a blacksmith, but the Prophet ﷺ says, nafikhul kir, the person who is made to blow on the fire to make it more hot. A long time ago, fires need oxygen. And so in order to make the fire hot enough to be able to make steel and iron malleable, they would have this device that you would push it and it would blow air onto the source of the fire. And usually the person that would do this is the blacksmith's apprentice. This guy, when he comes out of there, he's covered in black soot. He stinks, he smells. The Prophet ﷺ said that the example, the analogy of bad company that you keep, he will either set your clothes on fire for you, or you will start to smell bad, or at least you will have an unpleasant smell, an unpleasant experience. And so the Prophet ﷺ says that the best amongst us are those whom when they are seen, Allah is remembered. This person has fulfilled the purposes of his life. Then he says, أَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ بِشِرَارِكُمْ? Should I not tell you who the worst amongst you are? He says, الْمَشَّاؤُونَ بِالنَّمِيمَةِ الْمُفَرِّقُونَ بَيْنَ الْأَحِبَّةِ الْمُبْتَغُوا الْبُرَآءَ الْعَنَةَ. He says, the worst amongst you are those who carry rumors and news between you all, and those who separate the hearts of those who love one another otherwise, those who seek to make the innocent suffer publicly. Those are the worst amongst us. Those are the traits of hypocrisy. When you see them, the opposite of the remembrance of Allah happens. They remind you of the fitna. They remind you of pettiness. They remind you of rumors. They take your attention away from Allah and the bigger picture. And they make you petty like them. And they see two people getting along, they have to stick their nose between them. And they can't keep a lid on anything. Anything that they hear or suspect, it has no filter. It comes straight out of their mouth. All they have to talk about is other people. If you walk by carrying a bag, their eyes are intruding to see what's in that bag. What are you doing? If you come down the road, what's down that road? What were you doing down there? What's going on? And so forth. These are the worst amongst us. We have both. And every one of us chooses which one he wants to be. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he make us of those who when they are seen, Allah is remembered. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to stomp out any fitna amongst us, that he subhanahu wa ta'ala make us immune to rumors and tail carrying and backbiting, that he make our hearts harmonized in this life, and that he make our hearts harmonized both in the masjid and outside. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa jazakumullahu khayr.